Nonce. A very funny word with a very sinister definition. It's a word that's used often here in the UK and nowhere near often enough elsewhere on our little globe. And while it's a comical word to fling around willy-nilly, there can be some serious repercussions if the person you're calling a nonce takes it all too seriously. It's the reason we stopped our side-splitting Nonce Watch segment on the Gamers Watch podcast. But, in typical Gamers Watch fashion, we just don't know when to stop. And we found that fictional characters will have a harder time defending themselves from noncing accusations than actual living people. So, here's 7.4 video game characters who are 100% nonces. Karate instructors, not something you'd normally gravitate towards the word nonce for. I mean, yes, they do deal with mainly children, but they're teaching them self-defense. Nothing shady about that at all. So why is Chop Chop Master Onion, the karate instructor from Parappa the Rapper, made our list? Well, you see, Chop Chop Master Onion didn't stop at just being a karate instructor for kids. Instead, he expanded upon his teachings in Parappa the Rapper 2 to start a show called Romantic Karate, where it turns out all those valuable self-defense lessons were actually ways of expressing love. That's right, expressing love. And if you think there's any chance he could be using the word love in a different context, then just have a listen to the lyrics.
We are lovers, we are. I'm the sensei, you are my students. But before that, you and I are friends. We know each other anywhere we can. We all need love, no matter woman or a man.
There's no layers to this onion. He's just a straight up nonce.
Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. Won't last forever. Won't last forever.
Do a spot of light reading in the Pokédex during one of your Pokemon adventures, and you'll soon find that not all is as innocent as it may seem. There's a revenge-seeking stuffed toy, a creature who sucks the bodily fluids of its prey, a life-energy-draining sword, and a sandcastle who hoards the bones of its victims. Nothing but light-hearted, family-friendly fun over at the Pokemon Company. There's even a Pokemon whose favourite pastime is to literally snatch kids and drag them away. But believe it or not, Drifloon isn't the resident nonce of the Pokemon world. Instead, that title belongs to Mr. Mime. With vibrating, yes, vibrating, digits made for diddling, and disguised as a popular type of children's entertainer, there's no other logical conclusion to come to. We all believed old Mimey was making the moves on Ash's mum, but there's a far more sinister plan hatching in that twisted head, because Mr. Mime definitely diddles kids.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... well, let's just say your hour has come again.
G-Man definitely diddles kids.
The right man in the wrong place.
Businessmen are wankers. Okay, not all of them, but it's a fairly common trait among them, and one that this scrawny little fucker right here has in spades. For those of you who don't know, this is Tom Nook. And for those who haven't had the displeasure of meeting him yet, he is one of the biggest twats to have ever existed. I hate him. I hate him with every fibre of my being. Tom Nook is a nonce, and a dangerous nonce at that. Why? Because of his shady business tactics that he uses on kids in order to entrap them into his services, ensuring that they remain indebted to him for as long as he wants them around. He starts by gaining their trust and becoming a familiar and friendly face. When a child moves into the area, he's the first to greet them. He'll even give them a house. How generous of this nice man. A child without a roof over their head isn't something anyone wants to see. Oh, but you didn't think that house was free, did you? Oh no, You need to pay Mr. Nook for that house he just gave you without you asking for it. What's that? You don't have any money because you're literally just a child? Don't worry, kind old Tom Nook can use your services so you can pay him back all the money you earn. That's child labor right there. He can do whatever he wants with you because you essentially owe him everything. And you can't speak out against him or seek the help of others. Oh no, because if you do, then well, you can say goodbye to that roof over your head and any form of income to keep on living. And don't you dare think you can just stomach the months of service under him to pay off the house and then walk away, because he'll just bypass all planning permission laws and whip up an extension to put you further in debt to him. Your one and only chance of freedom for the remainder of your life is to up and run away. Take a chance in the wilds and oh no. No wait, he recently closed that loophole by moving everything to an island where there's literally no escape. Tom Nook, a prick, a pillock, a piece of shit, and an absolute nonce. Picture this for a second. You're the proud mother to a lively 10-year-old kid. It's the perfect summer's morning. The washing is already hanging out to dry as it gently sways against the cool breeze. The smell of coffee and freshly baked bread fills the house. Life cannot be more perfectly peaceful than this very moment. Suddenly, a huge commotion upstairs disturbs the silence. Your kid comes sprinting into sight, and before they've even had the breakfast you lovingly made, they're bolting for the front door. The reason they give for their state of urgency? The local professor has invited them over to play with their balls. Alarm bells. Yes, there's something that doesn't quite sit right with us when it comes to the crusty old Pokemon professors. It's not necessarily their obsession with balls either, but the fact that they only enjoy recruiting and spending time with kids. If education was their true purpose, then surely their adventures would be a welcoming of all ages sort of deal. And it doesn't stop there either. There's a whole network of the creeps, working together to help the world gain a better understanding of Pokemon. Bollocks. They just want to learn more about Mr. Mime's diddling digits and how they can utilize them themselves to further aid their little nonce ring. Pokemon professors, don't trust them.
I'm an eggplant wizard, but I don't want to be an eggplant again.
Now we've had to do a bit of digging and a touch of deduction for our entry so far, except G-Man. But Eggplant Wizard is a Space Jam-sized slam dunk. In a nutshell, he's an eggplant. That's right, an eggplant. He also likes to turn other people into eggplants. Yep, eggplants. Now, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely no harm in a bit of consensual eggplantation. It's a natural part of life. However, when you commit such actions in a game whose title begins with the word kid, and said actions are aimed at this so-called kid, well, then you might just be getting a knock on the door from the old Bill sooner rather than later. It's so blatant, with zero attempt made to hide it, that even a toddler would be able to connect these dots. And I know everyone's innocent until proven guilty and all that, but you wouldn't even need to read the charges out in court for the jury to start murmuring and nodding in agreement with each other. This guy right here, complete and utter nonce.
And I still think about her. I still crave her screams and her death.
Before we get to our biggest nonce, we've got a dishonourable mention of sorts. Someone who doesn't quite get a full nonce point. And that is Needles Kane from the Twisted Metal franchise. Why doesn't he get a full point, you ask? He does have all the hallmarks of your classic nonce after all. Dresses as a classic form of children's entertainer? Check. Drives around in an ice cream truck? Double check. So what has stopped Needles Kane short of the nonce mark? Well, it's because he's so batshit insane that he most likely just straight up kills anyone and everyone regardless of age who crosses his path. Straight up mentalist? Yes. Nonce, however, no.
I'm going to make her bleed.
Welcome to EA Sports live coverage of the Barclays Premier League.
Anyone with more than one cell in their brain can see that up to this point, this list hasn't been in the slightest bit serious. Of course we don't believe any of these characters are actual nonces. or were designed with the intention of being a nonce. Although Tom Nook is still a wanker, and G-Man definitely diddles kids. However, our number one spot goes to someone in video games who is a genuine nonce. This is Adam Johnson. He was a professional footballer who played for the likes of Manchester City and Sunderland. He's also playable in multiple FIFA games, and in 2016 was sentenced to 6 years in prison for grooming and sexual activity with a 15-year-old girl. He is, by definition of the word, a nonce, and a convicted one at that. After his conviction, FIFA subsequently removed Adam Johnson from FIFA 16. But, due to EA's ability to forget a sports game's existence after 1 year, he remains in earlier titles and therefore gets top spot on our list. Well, there you have it. A list of video game characters who are 100% nonces. Is there any that we missed out that you think should make the list? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, and even if you didn't, give it a little thumbs up and subscribe for more pristine Gamers Watch content like this. Now, for your next video to watch, we've got a few recommendations. You can either click up there to check out the Gamers Watch podcast, now in its 4th season, and filled with tip-top gaming topics such as this. Or if time is of the essence, then we've got another list down here, which is 5 reasons why Elden Ring needs an easy mode. Force of habit when being critical about that game.